So welcome everyone, and thank you so much for joining us for this Q&A to follow the screening of I'll Be There. We're really thrilled to have director Kallista Palapas, correct?
Kallista Palapas.
Great, beautiful name. The director of the film here with us today. I'm Joanne Parsont. I'm the director of education for the California Film Institute. I am also the programmer of all of our family films, and I get the great pleasure too of getting to oversee our Young Curators Camp in the summer, which is the peer review jury that decides on all the films that are in the youth program that are in the festival that this film is part of. So every one of the films that were selected for this program were chosen by a group of teenagers who participated in the Young Curators program and learned how to curate and select films for the festival. And out of over 200 films, this is one of those great selections. So congrats on that, Kallista. And thank you so much for being with us. Tell us where you're calling in from and where you go to school, what age you were when you made this film, and just a sense of your context as far as a youth filmmaker.
Okay, so I'm calling from Mountain Time, Colorado Springs. I am currently a CFS student, Colorado Film School. I graduated during the pandemic, so I'm a 2020 student graduate. Very difficult times, but we all made it.
Maybe how old you are at this point? What are you, 18?
I'm 18, yes.
Awesome. That's so great to hear you're at film school too. So you made this film though in a particular program called the Youth Documentary Academy in Colorado Springs, correct?
Yes.
Can you tell us a little bit about that program and how you got involved with it?
So I joined the Youth Documentary Academy and I got in and I was planning to make a film. I didn't know what I wanted to make because not only did I actually lose a friend with a month before I interviewed in, I'm also a military child. So I wanted to also make a film about the experience of being a military child. But then I realized that I was not over the fact that I was still grieving for my friend. And so I decided that it would be not only helpful for myself, but for other people to make a tribute film. And I couldn't have done that without the Youth Documentary Academy because of the resources they gave me, the equipment, and especially the people. The people who I worked with are amazing people. I couldn't have done the film without them because it was very hard making it. And so working with them made it so much easier to make something so delicate. So I'm forever thankful for YDA, and I'm actually a board director there, a youth council member in a way. And I hope to do as much as I can for that program because they've done so much for me. So.
That's amazing. Yeah, we actually got several submissions from YDA to the festival, and I have to say it was actually really difficult for the jury to choose because they were all so incredible. So it's clearly an incredible program. I'm so glad you were able to do that. And so had you been making films prior to that?
In a way. So I first fell in love with film when I was in 6th grade. I was in middle school and they had a broadcasting team. And they looked like they had so much fun. And so I joined my 7th grade year, and then 8th grade I did media production. So I kind of have films in a way. They're not really mine. In high school, I tried to join a filmmaking class, but they had to cut it, which was very upsetting. And that's partially why I joined the Youth Documentary Academy, because during high school, I wanted to get my filming in, and that was my biggest opportunity. So that's my biggest film I can call my own.
And did you know that you wanted to continue on to film school before you started at YDA, or did that just solidify it?
Yes. I mean, it's both. I definitely, when I was in YDA, that confirmed that I did want to be a filmmaker. But before, I love directing. I love filming, just being behind the scenes, whatever I can do in the industry, I wanted to be a part of it. And so that solidified my major, that I did want to be a film student. And that is why I am attending Colorado Film School, because I want to be a writer and a director.
Awesome. So tell me a little, though, as the director of this film, how you collaborated with your cast and crew, and how big that crew was, and how you all worked together within this program.
So it wasn't a big cast. It was very hard to contact interviewees just because it's a delicate topic. It's not something everybody wants to talk about every day. So it was hard trying to contact the right people. But my biggest concern was contacting his mother, just because that's your son, and you don't want to say, it's hard. It's really hard when it comes to suicide. And so you have to be very proper, very respectful, very delicate and empathetic to get your point across that there's more to the reason why you want to make a film, because there's people who make suicide films and it can be insulting to somebody. And so trying to get her on board with it, I was very scared, but she agreed. She came to a cafe with Tom Shepard and me, and she was like, yes, I'll do it. And I was so excited, just because I wanted to hear her side of the story, but also it felt like an honor to meet her, just because that's so strong of her to do that. Not every mother can do that. And then for the friends, that was also difficult because, one, they're children, so they don't want to be on camera, and then their parents, parents don't want their children on camera sometimes. So it was one of those, like, which kid will do it, which kid wouldn't, and I had to do a lot of persuading, just because I remember one of his biggest friends that he would talk about all the time was Annie, and trying to get to her saying, it's a good way to, prevent this from happening again. There's more to this, and maybe you can gain closure out of it. And she was like, I'm not doing this without my friend. And I was like, okay, bring whatever friend you want. And she brought Cody, and I've known him since 6th grade, and he was on board with it. So I was perfect. I was like, perfect. She can say her story. He can say his side, because he had a class with him and we all knew each other. So I was like, this is great. But I tried getting more people, and that was very difficult. But other than that, I had Tom Shepard, Eric Fisher, Mona, and they all helped me record. They all helped me with equipment and coming with me to places. And then my editor, Billy Vincent, he is the best editor out there. I love every editor, but he just knew my style, and that helped so much to get the story across. So everybody did their part. Everybody was so amazing, and I'm forever grateful for everybody who partook in this.
Well, it was a really great production. You could tell that, it was really tight of how you put it together. I was wondering that actually about your relationship with Ricky's mother, and presuming that would be a very difficult ask. But so I was wondering, was that a relationship that you had with her before, or was this really a bit stepping out of your comfort zone to ask her to participate in this, knowing, not having that type of a connection? Because it seemed from the conversations that you were having on screen, it felt very, it was just really wonderful to see that connection, to see the way she was connecting with you and knowing, you both trying to be there for each other's experience around his loss. It was really really beautiful to see. But so I was just wondering how that relationship developed in the course of making the film.
So we had a balloon release, kind of a candlelight memorial for him, a week after it happened. And she went, and so I shook her hand, but I couldn't do it. I was too emotional at the time. So that was kind of like, I had seen her, but I didn't really talk to her. So when I emailed her, I had to find her on Facebook. Mm-hmm. I had someone knew her Facebook account, and so I'm grateful for that. And I contacted her right away, and I said, like, can I send you an email? She was like, yeah. So I sent an email explaining what it was about, why I was doing it, what it could do for the future. And she was like, okay, I'm interested. And I was like, okay, let's meet at a cafe. Let's talk, to get this solidified that you're on board, because there have been issues around with her loss, because there was actually some GoFundMe pages for Ricky, and they were not from her. They were from other people who just wanted money. So they were using him in a way to get money. So she was already upset about that. She was already, you know, how are you going to trust me when you've already had that kind of situation happen? So I made sure I was very cautious with it. But once we brought the cameras in and everything, she opened up. She talked about everything. And that was the most powerful thing, was that she said, you know, she opened up about it when she didn't have to. She didn't have to tell me everything about what happened and how he was, like, his home life and everything. She didn't have to open her home like that, but she did. And for her to do that, that's just that amazed me, for her to do that. And without her, there wouldn't be a film. And so I'm
sorry. I was just wondering how she feels about the film now, and I'm presuming that she's seen it.
So we had a little YDA premiere, and I invited her. I said, you know, let's, if you could come, it's here. And she went with her littlest son. I love him. He's so sweet. So both of them came, and once they saw it, I was actually behind them, and I could see them, and I was waiting for, like, how they would feel. I was so scared because I wanted the story to make sure it was respecting him, and it was showing that he was a good person, because he was a good person. And I wanted to get that across, and I wanted to get that what happened, but that doesn't define him. And so when she came afterwards, I was so nervous. And she was like, I'm so proud of you. Like, for you to do that, I'm impressed. And she said, I'm not usually impressed a lot. And that made me feel like I did my job, that I got the goal done. And I was so happy when she said that, because I was worried for months. I wanted everything that was said perfect, correct. I mean, I think any filmmaker can say that. But for a film like this, it had to be perfect. And for her to say that, I felt like I accomplished what I did, and the point was across. And she went home and she was so happy about it. She's like, you can come anytime. And I found out she's actually my neighbor. I didn't know that. She lives 2 blocks away from me, and I had no idea. So I'm hoping to visit her again, because I really loved being by her and talking to her. And I actually said happy birthday to her a month ago. And so we still kind of stay in contact.
That's great. Yeah, it was really great to see that connection that you guys had. And it was really, I thought it worked actually really well, that you, like you said, having the 2 friends together actually worked really nicely to see them, you know, riff off of each other about their experiences with Ricky. I thought that actually, that in some ways that seemed sort of like it was a serendipitous in a way that she insisted that he join her, because I feel like it actually gave it even more depth, because they had differing experiences of him. But it just made it a little bit richer to see them together. That was really great. I'm glad you were able to get them. You said in the film at one point that your school was divided for a second around it. What did you mean by that? And how did you recover? How did you and your peers recover from that?
So it happened during SATs. So I was doing my SAT the day of, and then that night it happened. And then the next day it was the PSATs. And so the school was not telling the kids what was going on, but they knew something was up. And so that kind of shook them at first, like, why aren't the staff telling us stuff? But that day, I remember my dad had told me, because I had the day off, and I remember my dad telling me, like, someone passed away at your school, and they're not telling anybody who the name was. And I was like, I know who it is. And so that people were putting the pieces together, and we were all upset that it happened at our school. The word can get across a school within minutes. Right. That is one thing with social media. And so it was getting out there. There were rumors. People were lying to each other. People were confused. And so, and like rumors and such. And so once they put out the name, that broke people. I remember the next day I went back to school, and it was so hard to interpret everything because so much seemed to happen. It kind of looked like a normal school, but it didn't. There were people who were crying in the hallways once you walk in. There were people who had monitors around them because they had a panic attack. There were people who were just quiet. They didn't want to say anything because they didn't know how to react, and they didn't want people to judge them. So it was mixed emotions. And then the next day it was more like, let's wear red for him, things like that. And people were taking like a group picture. And it was nice because their purpose was they wanted to celebrate his life. But for others, it was like you're taking a picture of yourself like that. You know, like you're smiling, you're happy, you shouldn't be happy. This is a sad time. And it doesn't help that we're all teenagers. So it was one of those like, what were we supposed to do? And then there were people taking bathroom selfies of themselves like, this is for you, Ricky. And that just felt inappropriate.
Right.
And there were monitors everywhere. They're counselors, but they were monitoring like the hallways. And they would just check in. There were kids who couldn't be in the school. There were kids who were sitting out in the hallway. There were rumors going around about like, he did this, he did that. Some people were disgusting and said like he got what was coming.
Wow.
And it was one of those like, it just was so disgusting that everything was just happening. And it got to a point where there was almost a couple fights. It didn't happen, but it was leading up to there. So we were all divided in a way like, you shouldn't be acting like this, you shouldn't be acting like that. But the one thing we all had in common was we weren't okay. And it didn't matter if you knew him. It happened in your school. That was nearby. So it impacted you. And he was friends with everybody. He knew like half the school. And he was a sophomore when I was a junior at the time. And so that didn't help that like half the school knew him. That impacts you. That says something. And it was heartbreaking. It was terrible. But there was one good thing out of it. There were people bonding with each other. There were girls I didn't talk to in a long time were calling me, like checking in on me. There were people, I remember some teachers I didn't think they liked me. And they were comforting me, saying like, whatever you need to do it. It's okay. And my biology class where I had Ricky in, we couldn't even do a class that day. And then the next day we couldn't even be in the class. We were outside on the baseball field. So it was just one of those, it was just so much emotions for everybody. And teachers were upset. There were students comforting teachers.
Mm.
So it was, yeah.
That's the challenge too, is that, you know, it's a situation you don't know how you're going to react until you're in it. And then what are the, people judging each other on what are the appropriate reactions and what aren't, and what feels right to you, what feels right to someone else. And, that's a lot of emotion to process. Was it, so when you decided to make the film then and kind of revisit that, did any of that come back, or were there any issues as far as, the response from, I guess in general, from your peers or the school community about how best to address it in the film?
So I haven't released the film to my fellow classmates. I've been wanting to so bad, but just, it was still being perfected. It was still, I couldn't release it yet until it's on our show, which it's coming soon on our time at Rocky Mountain PBS. So I'm very excited for that. But I don't know how everyone's going to react. I know a lot of people are putting the pieces together. I think there's rumors about me saying like, oh, she made a film about him, and there's going to be mixed feelings. I know there's going to be people like, you did it wrong. And there's going to be other people who are going to say like, that's amazing. But I know the people who have seen it, because I showed them on my phone, have all said like, it helped them. That the film did say something to some people. And it didn't have to be if you knew him. It could have been maybe someone you cared about that you lost. That it said something to them that, one, they are okay and that they are allowed to move on, and that it gave them the closure they needed. And that was my goal for Ricky. My goal was he would still live in through the film and do what he does best, which is supporting people, helping people, being there for people. That's why it's called I'll Be There, because he is there. And he always was when he was here. So I made sure that if I'm going to make this film, I want it to help people. I want people to, if they need to resort to that, they can. And so, yes, I am scared how my fellow classmates are going to react, but I hope it gives them the closure that they need.
So I wonder, was it cathartic for you to make the film? I mean, did you get a sense of closure from the experience? Did it help for you?
I did. I did get a lot of closure that I needed, just because, well, one, I was getting help while making it. I didn't get like therapy or anything. I had like the people I was working with, you know, I went to like our mentors for help, especially Eric, who's one of the editors. I really went to him a lot, and I went to my classmates at YDA, and they helped me so much. And that's what's amazing about YDA, is that we all know that we're there for each other. It's like, it really is like a family. People sometimes like, oh, you know, the volleyball team's my family, the football field's my family, the football team's my family. And I wanted that, and YDA gave me that. And the culture is so welcoming and so empathetic that that's what I needed. I needed them to help me make this. And without them, I probably wouldn't have been so stable making it like I did. So that's the one thing I love about YDA, and that was my closure, was making it.
That's fantastic. So are you working on anything now as far as next projects, films that you're working on, maybe at CFS?
So I just got into CFS, and I'm in the beginning years, and with COVID-19 happening, production doesn't seem to be going on at the moment, but I know some people have invited me to productions, so I may try to help them out when I can, and especially at CFS, once I'm in the like second or third year when I am filming, I'm gonna hope to be on so much productions, whether I'm directing it or I'm filming. We'll see.
That's great. That's great. There's definitely plenty of time. I mean, it's, you know, it's an awkward time for you to have just started, but at the same time, you know that you've got a lot of time ahead of you to get working on projects, and you've got this one under your belt, which is great. Just as sort of a final, do you have any advice for other aspiring young filmmakers? What kind of what keeps you going and keeps you motivated, and has been, you know, has kind of helped you be successful in where you're at so far?
I would definitely say to the younger audience about that is that take advantage of your opportunities that are handed to you, because some people take things for granted, like, oh, I can get that another day. It's not always like that. YDA, my mom brought it up. She's like, you should probably join. And I was like, well, I don't really know if I have the time. And she was like, just join. You like filming. And I was like, okay, let's do it. And I did it that night. And I got in and I did this. I took advantage of that opportunity. And for motivation, have the people that care about you help motivate you into doing something great. Because there are times where you're at your lowest, where it's super hard. I mean, making the film was really hard, and I really didn't think it would get out on time. But if you have the right people supporting you, like telling you it's going to be okay, that helps so much. And that kept me motivated. But I would just say entirely take advantage of the opportunities that are handed to you, because you never know if it's going to get you somewhere where you want to be.
Well, I'm glad you did, and you definitely did. Thank you so much for your beautiful film, Kallista. It was really great to talk to you. I wish you the very, very best of luck with your ongoing film career. And please, of course, send any films that, you know, your future films, send them our way. We would love to see them. We'd love to feature them. We'd love to have you back at the festival. wish we could have you here in person, but hopefully we can do that in the future.
Thank you so much. This is such a great honor and pleasure to be here. I'm so happy that this film got in. So thank you again.
Absolutely. It was great. Take care.
You too.